Hey guys, it's Gary back with another legal tip on Are Tax Bills Out Yet? And my very special guest today is my law partner, Jordan Stallings. As y'all know, he covers our Lexington office. We cover the downtown office, and we have a great office up in Greenville as well. But Jordan wanted to jump in on our legal tip today and talk about something very important, tax bills. Jordan, what counties are already out?
All right, I'm going to share my screen here, so hopefully you can see. Right here, we have a spreadsheet we keep. Florence County, Pickens County, Lancaster County so far. We do not have the tax bills from Lexington as we usually do this time of year, but they are expected within the next couple weeks.
Okay, and so the dates you have written there are when we think they're going to be out. So we think by the end of October, everybody should be out.
Usually that's the case. Sometimes first week of November, but October's the month.
And we don't really get any warning about it, do we? They just kind of come out.
None whatsoever. Matter of fact, when I called the Lexington County Assessor's Office, they weren't sure when they would be releasing tax bills. It could be today, it could be 2 weeks. They don't know.
Wow, and I'm sure COVID is going to definitely play a factor in that as well. So how are the tax bills affecting us? So for instance, if we haven't issued the tax bill, if a county hasn't issued a tax bill, how's that affecting in closing right now?
Well, it's in a big way. I actually had in one instance, a lender that did not collect in the escrow account for the buyer the amount of money that they're going to need in the next couple months to pay the 2020 tax bill, because the lender assumed the bill was out for this county and that the seller was paying it at closing, which was not the case. So now in 2 months, when it comes out and needs to be paid, the lender's not going to have money in their escrow account to do that. So
they're going to hit the buyer for that money then, won't they?
Buyer's going to be short in their escrow account. Luckily, we identified it. We made them aware. Everybody's happy, but not a good situation.
All right. So what happens when the tax bill comes out? How's that going to change closings up for everybody?
A great deal. Putting aside whether it goes from 6% to 4% or all those other issues, the general rule is that right now when we do closings in counties where the bills aren't out, you there in Richland, me here in Lexington, the seller doesn't have a bill to pay. So the seller gives a proration from January 1 up until today to the buyer as a credit. So the buyer would get a credit right now. Once the bill is issued, the seller now pays that bill for 2020, and the buyer, instead of getting that credit for 10 months, that credit goes away and they now have a cost item on their side to give a proration to the seller. So it literally flip-flops from a credit to a debit, which could be a couple $1,000s sometimes.
And the big problem comes, as you were mentioning earlier, is if the seller's at 6% and the buyer's going to live in it. So what happens? What's the big problem with that?
It could be a huge problem. Right now, without a tax bill, a 6% tax bill from last year, the buyer, whether they're 4% or 6%, would be getting a 6% based credit on the closing statement. So the one I had, it was a $6,000 bill last year. The credit right now would be $4,000. Wow. If that flips, the bill comes out and it's now a 4% bill. Now they lose that $4,000 credit, and now there's a $2,000 line item on their side because they have to give the proration to the buyer based off of that tax bill. So
what happens in that situation is the seller's having to pay the $6,000 tax bill, and the buyer, even though they're going to live in the house, they're paying $2,000 credit to the seller for the time, and their whole tax bill for the whole year might not even been $2,000, but they're now paying 3 months at $2,000. Now, the good news is they can apply, can they not, to get that money back, but we're talking 6-7 months now. I would bet even longer because of COVID.
That's right. So the buyer can go down, apply, get the legal residence tax reduction, but a credit's going to have to come back sometime, and who knows when that will get issued.
And so what advice are you telling agents right now?
I think the most important thing is just be aware of this early and often. The contract that we all use requires the most recent tax bill to be used, prorated on that basis, and the taxes and the prorations to be final at closing. So what can get real tricky is if Lexington County issues their tax bill tomorrow and your buyer now has to bring $2,000 extra or closing, or the same thing happens to your seller. If you weren't aware of that and thinking of it already, you're not going to be able to renegotiate at the table. It's not going to happen to ask your client to bring that much more money to closing or vice versa. It needs to happen early in the contract stage.
And my advice is talk to your clients about this and let your buyers and your sellers know that, hey, tax bills could come out any day and it could change the whole net sheet and how this thing works. Most importantly, Jordan's going to update us all throughout the next couple of months on what tax bills are out and which tax bills are not. So just keep coming back and watching these legal tips, because Jordan's going to join us and do a lot of these Also, we have a podcast coming out. The link's below as well. We started that today. It's going to be every 2 weeks. And Jordan's going to join us on the podcast every episode until tax season's over and update you as well there. So watch the legal tips, listen to the podcast, like it, share it, and you'll get all the good information you need. All right. Thanks, Jordan. I appreciate you joining us today. All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks for having me.